Hello, my friend. Welcome to the Chronicle Me podcast. I'm your host, Aimee Esther, and in today's episode, we're talking about how to treat multiple chronic illnesses. If you live chronically ill like me and are looking for more purpose, control, and joy in your life, then you are in the right place. This is the podcast that challenges your thinking around chronic illness so you can live the most amazing life despite extra challenges. Are you ready? Let's go. Hello, my friend, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm excited for this episode because I get this question a lot. I personally have multiple chronic illnesses. I have POTS, SIBO, endometriosis, PCOS, fibromyalgia, chronic migraines, chronic fatigue syndrome, mast cell activation syndrome, probably more that I'm forgetting. I have a lot of chronic illnesses, and because of that, it can be really hard to deal with and hard to know what works and what doesn't because you try something and it makes one thing better and the other thing worse. And when you have so much going on in your body, it's so hard to know. I even go to my doctors and they don't know what to do with me because there's so many things going on. So the first thing I want to mention are a few things that I would recommend taking a look at no matter what chronic illness you have. No matter if you only have one chronic illness or you have 10, these things I think are essential. I think even people who aren't chronically ill should make sure that they have these things in order, and then we can talk about what to do next, how to find the specific things for you. So the first thing I would definitely take a look at is sleep. Sleep is incredibly important. I think we all know that. I think we all know what it's like to not sleep well and have a flare-up, or not sleep well and be mentally a mess and not be able to focus, and not sleep well and just feel awful. I actually read a study once that said that they took some people who were perfectly healthy and they would wake them up just a little bit multiple times a night. They would disrupt their sleep and make it so they didn't get a restful full night's sleep. And these people, within a matter of weeks, started to develop fibromyalgia symptoms, which is widespread pain and fatigue, essentially. And these people were perfectly healthy, and just simply disrupting their sleep caused them to be in a lot of chronic pain and have a lot of chronic fatigue. So if that happens for normal people who are perfectly healthy, how do you think that affects you who lives chronically ill and has multiple chronic illnesses? It really does affect everything. Now, I also know that when you live chronically ill, it makes it hard to sleep. It's like this battle that you can't get over because you don't sleep well and then you feel sick, and then because you're feeling sicker, you don't sleep well. And it's a vicious cycle, right? And so that is something we really need to figure out. I really think investing in good things for your sleep will make a difference. So I actually have a video on my YouTube channel where I go into details about, some tips on how to sleep better when you live chronically ill. So I will link that in the show notes or the description below if you're interested in learning more about sleep in particular. But you need to figure out what works for you. And later in this episode, we are going to go into how to find out what works for you, how to know what is the best options to try and how long to try them. All that we're going to go over later in this episode. The next thing I really think everyone who's chronically ill needs to look for is their environment. How is your physical environment that you live in? Where do you live in the world? Do you live in a very humid place or a very dry place? Do you live in a very hot place or a very cold place? Or do you experience all the seasons? How is the environment where you live? And start to notice if that affects your health, because many people who live chronically ill that I have coached and that I've talked to, and myself personally, have noticed a difference in their environment. I've heard many people say that the change in weather, quick changes in weather, can flare them up, or extreme temperatures. For example, for me, I have heat intolerance. So when I get too hot, I have severe symptoms. And so I have to keep my house at a certain temperature all year long, or else I start to suffer. Now, I have mast cell activation syndrome, which means that allergies are something that I deal with. And being outside at all, sometimes I start to get symptoms. And so inside, I have to have a safe place where the temperature is regulated with good quality air. So this leads me into the sponsor of today's video, which is Medify Air. And I cannot tell you how much I love this product. It's an air purifier. They have many different models. They have small ones, they have big ones, they have wall units, they have so many options for you. And I have to tell you, when they reached out to me, I already owned one of their products. I already had a small air purifier that I kept in my house all the time because of my allergies, and more importantly, because I have a child who has even more severe environment allergies than I do. And it's been really hard to deal with, especially this season where the allergens in the air have been so bad. And my Medify air purifiers have completely changed my life. Medify air has a true HEPA H13 filter. It removes 99.9% of particles down to zero point 0.1 microns, which is 20 times smaller than a grain of table salt. This advanced H13 True HEPA filter traps more dust, pollen, pet dander, smoke, bacteria, and viruses than leading competitors. If you have pets, air purifiers will not only remove airborne pet hair, dander, and odor, but they can also help protect your pets from indoor air pollution. If you suffer from allergies, asthma, or other respiratory problems, this could be a great product for you. And many of the Medify Air products are even proven to remove 99.99% of COVID-19 particles. Improving air quality can even affect your sleep, which takes a huge toll on the body, as we discussed today. If you suffer from chronic fatigue, air purifiers combat poor air quality, which is associated with fatigue. Check the description in the YouTube video or the show notes in the podcast episode for more information on Medify Air. And I genuinely think that improving the air quality of your home could help multiple chronic illnesses. So let's move along to another thing that I think is so important if you have any chronic illness, and especially have multiple, which is food. What you put in your body matters. Now, I'm not going to tell you what to eat and what not to eat because I don't know what's best for you. And again, we'll talk later in the episode about how to find that for you, but just notice that food matters. What you put in your body matters because it affects everything. What you put in your body is what gives you the nutrients to function and to live. And if you put certain things in your body, it might have a negative effect based on the chronic illness you have or just based on being a human in general. And the fourth thing that I think you really need to take a look at with whatever chronic illness you have is your mental health. Mental health has such a huge role on our physical. This is something I had not realized until the last year or so. But my mental health and my physical health are so linked. Think about whenever you feel a strong emotion, even, you feel a physical symptom. When I feel embarrassed, I feel a pit in my stomach. When I feel overwhelmed, I feel weights on my shoulders. We feel physical symptoms when we feel emotions, and especially if we deal with things like anxiety, depression, PTSD, bipolar, any kind of mental illness, which is very, very common when you live chronically ill for many reasons. I think the physical aspect of it, as well as the mental aspect of dealing with chronic illness, makes us more likely to deal with a mental illness as well. And so getting control of our mental health is huge. A few things I do recommend is some kind of talk therapy, if that's something that helps you, whether it's life coaching, therapy. I personally do both, and then also talk to my friends and also talk to you guys on the internet. I find talk therapy helps me at least a lot. Yoga, meditation, mindfulness, breathing techniques, anything like that to help calm you down, physically calm you down and mentally calm you down can be huge game changers when it comes to chronic illness. You might not realize how much your emotions are tied to your physical illness. And that's what this whole podcast is about. It's about the way we think and the way that we feel emotionally about our chronic illness and how that then changes our physical illness. When I have more positive thoughts, when I'm more grateful, when I feel more peace, I literally feel less pain. And I've seen it in my clients. I've seen it in myself. It makes a huge difference. So whatever it is that helps you mentally, try to take some time for that. So those, along with a few other things, are things to consider when it comes to helping your physical health. Other things to look at would be medications, supplements, and herbs. Look at, like we talked about with food, eliminating food or nutrient deficiencies you may have, physical activity, exercise that you do or don't do, environment, as we talked about, mental health and stress are huge. Other things to look into, chiropractic adjustments, acupuncture, and other alternative medicine treatments. There are surgeries, there are procedures, there are so many options that you need to consider if you live chronically ill. How do you know what works for you is the question. How do we know what to try, how long to try it, if it's working, if it's not working? This is something that overwhelms me to the point where sometimes I shut down and I say, I'm not trying anything else. I'm just living my life as it is. I just going to assume that no matter what I do, it's still going to be here because I cannot handle trying something new. I don't know if it's going to work. I'm worried it's going to make me worse. I get overwhelmed with all of the questions that my brain offers me about trying new treatments. So the first thing I want you to know is that trial and error is the only way to find what works for you. And we all know this. This is not anything new, that we need to try stuff and see if it works. And there's anxiety that comes along with that. And we're going to talk about that in just a minute. I want to mention a couple more things first, such as don't knock anything. Don't say, for sure, I'm not trying that thing. I'm not saying you have to try it or you have to try everything. I'm just saying don't cut anything out of an option. I know for me, I struggled with exercise and everybody told me, Aimee, exercise, that will help you so much. That'll help your fibro, that'll help your POTS, that'll help your SIBO. Like, you need to exercise, Aimee. And I would get so exhausted and I had exercise intolerance. I talk in the past sometimes. In the present, I have exercise intolerance and it makes it really hard to exercise because I'm so exhausted after I can't do anything. And yet, I decided not to ever knock that out of an option. I had times where maybe I didn't attempt to exercise, I didn't want to try to exercise, but I found something that worked for me because I didn't knock that out of a possibility. For me, doing yoga is a great form of exercise. It helps my mental health, it helps my physical health, and I found that I just have to do it right before bed. And if I do it right before bed, then I'm exhausted, but I can sleep on it. And yoga isn't as intense as maybe doing like a high fit class or doing weightlifting. I found benefits from lots of different things, but I found for me, overall, physically, mentally, yoga is the best exercise option for me. And if I don't do it, I feel off physically and mentally. And if I had just knocked out the idea that exercise could ever work for me, then I wouldn't have ever found something that really works. So don't knock anything until you are for sure that it doesn't help you. And even then, sometimes your illness changes and something might not work in the past and it does work now. So that's hard, of course, because we want to knock stuff off our list and say this doesn't work. But if you ever just completely shut something out, it could cut out something that could be really beneficial to you. But also, on that same note, do not trust everyone, because how many times people told me, Aimee, you have to do this, this, and this, and then you'll be better. If you just stop eating gluten, you're going to be cured. Like, you don't need to eat that. And then you won't have inflammation, and then you'll have more energy, and then your POTS will go away. Like, no, that did not work for me. I was off gluten for years, and it did not change my symptoms. Now, again, am I knocking that out that gluten could ever be a problem for me? Maybe it is, but maybe it's gluten and dairy. Or maybe it's all grains that are my issue, right? As long as I don't knock it out completely, but also do not trust everyone, because I had a time where anytime any person told me any tiny thing that I should try, I tried it, and it was so time consuming, it was so expensive, and I went through treatments that were not good for me and made my health worse because I didn't stop and actually consider whether they were a good idea for me or not. I just did it because somebody told me to, and I was so desperate that I would do anything. And I think that's where the problem lies. When we're so desperate that we have to find an answer today, we will try anything and everything, and it gets expensive and hard and time consuming and exhausting. So yeah, let's not knock anything out of an option, but also let's not just trust everybody and everything they say. We're going to figure out what works for us, and sometimes we're going to say, no, I'm not going to do that. At one point, somebody told me, Aimee, you have to try this upper cervical chiropractor. I think it will be game-changing for you. I went to a free consultation. He was like, yes, I think I can help you. Here's all the reasons why. Here's all the benefits I think you'll get from this. But I was so financially and physically and mentally exhausted from doing treatments that I couldn't do it, and I didn't take it on. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that right now. About 4 years later, I went back to this same chiropractor. I've started doing treatments and have seen a world of difference from him. I didn't knock what he had to say, but I wasn't in a place to take that on right then. So even though in my mind I was like, I'm not going to completely shut this idea out, but right now it's not for me. We need to do what's best for us, not trust everybody, but also not knock anything out completely. My number one advice from this whole podcast is do not be in a rush to find answers. One thing at a time. We only need to do one thing at a time. Maybe your doctor recommends trying this medication and this supplement and this treatment all at the same time, but that's overwhelming. We also won't be able to tell which one's working if something is working. Now, if we're not in a rush, then we're not afraid to do one thing at a time. What if we decided that we would find answers exactly when we needed to? That there was no time limit, that there was no specific time we needed to find answers. What if we just knew that we would find answers soon? This is what I like to tell myself. I will find the answers, the solutions, the treatments that work for me soon. Soon is one of those words that isn't an exact thing. It's not, oh, it'll be a week from now, it'll be tomorrow, it'll be a month from now, it'll be a year from now. I don't know. There are times in my life where I was like, wow, that happened fast, and it was years in the making, right? So my thought is always, I will soon find the answers that I need. I don't need to find them today. I'm going to find them through trial and error. Sometimes I'm going to try something and it's going to make something worse, and then I will know that that didn't work. We can just decide that what we are doing is the right thing for now, even if it doesn't give us the solutions. What if it was the perfect step? What if me not going to my upper cervical chiropractor when I originally found him 4 years ago was the perfect thing for me? Because then I was able to find other things that help. I was able to find foods that make me worse and better. I was able to take time for my mental health and realize how much my mental health was affecting my physical health. Had I just gone to this chiropractor in the beginning, maybe I wouldn't have found those. What if I just decided that the times that I found the answers was exactly when I needed to? Which also means that in the future, when I find my answers, it will be exactly when I need to. And I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to just wait for it to fall on me. I'm going to do work. I'm going to take action. But I'm not going to assume that it's going to be here on a timetable that I set up. I'm going to assume that it is in the perfect timetable. For example, when I developed POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, it caused me to have symptoms upon standing. I would get dizzy. I would sometimes pass out. I would get very sick physically, muscle aches, fatigue. I'd feel like I was going to throw up. I would just feel really sick every time I stood up. I had no idea why. I had no idea what I was going through. And it took me about 3 years to get a diagnosis. And I found that wearing compression socks made a world of difference, like night and day difference. Every time I take my compression socks off, I feel awful. I wear them all the time when I'm awake. Unless I'm showering or I am sleeping, I am wearing my compression socks, and it makes such a big difference. And POTS is a blood circulation issue. It's a part of dysautonomia, so it causes issues with the autonomic nervous system, the parts of the body we don't consciously control. And it causes poor blood circulation upon standing. My blood would pool at my feet and struggle to get back up. Yet every time I got a test, I was laying down to get a CT scan or an MRI. I would get my blood drawn, and the doctor would say, your blood's perfectly normal, because the levels in my blood were normal. The amount of blood and where it was not normal, and it was really hard to see. So I would get all these tests, and they'd say I was normal and nothing was wrong with me. And I remember thinking, like, man, it would have been so nice to be able to go back to those doctors and say, hey, something is wrong with me. I knew there was something wrong, and everybody told me I was perfectly fine and perfectly healthy. But had I not gone through those 3 years of being so sick I could hardly get out of bed, of having people not believe me, I now have no issue wearing compression socks all day, every day. I talk to many people with POTS who say, it's such a burden to put on compression socks every day. I can't believe I have to do this, and I have to eat so much salt, and I have to drink so much water. Like, oh, it's so annoying, all these things I have to do for POTS. And to me, I'm like, I am so grateful that I have all these things that help me. I'm so grateful that I'm able to put these socks on every day. Not once have I put on my socks and been annoyed. Not once. Because I love them. They help me. And I went for 3 years of being so sick and nobody believing me and not being able to get out of bed, that wearing compression socks and putting on these super tight socks that are super hard to get on every day is not difficult for me. It is exciting. It is happy. I love putting on my compression socks every single day. I love it so much. And so I like to tell myself, Aimee, I'm so glad that it happened in that order. I'm so glad that it took us so long to get an answer and that it was so incredibly hard for a few years because now I'm so grateful. And I think if I had originally, the first doctor I'd gone to said, you have POTS, wear compression socks, I think I'd be annoyed at that. I would think, why do I have to wear these compression socks? It's not fair. I shouldn't have to deal with this POTS thing. And now, knowing that I have POTS is so exciting to me because I went so long not knowing. I went so long feeling like I was crazy. I went so long with people telling me nothing was wrong with me when I knew that something was wrong with me. So now, having POTS does not annoy me, does not make me sad or upset or annoyed. It makes me so happy to have a diagnosis. It makes me so incredibly happy to have super hard socks to put on every day. I absolutely love it. And had I not gone through that time of years of being so sick and not having anyone believe me, I wouldn't feel as excited about it now. And so I tell myself, Aimee, I'm so happy that it happened the way it did. It happened exactly as it was supposed to. And since that happened exactly as it was supposed to, that means my future treatments are going to happen exactly as they're supposed to. Because I can believe anything I want. And when I believe that, it gives me hope, it gives me patience, it gives me excitement. I love, more than anything, feeling like my life is happening exactly as it should. What has happened in the past happened exactly as it should have. And I can't change that. I can't go back and change it. So why would I think any other way? It's not helpful to think any other way. Why would I even want to change that thinking? So if instead I think life happens exactly as it should, I love the way my life has happened in the past, even if the hard things were really hard and terrible and I wouldn't wish them on my worst enemy, I still believe that it happened exactly as it should, which means today is happening exactly as it should. Tomorrow is going to happen exactly as it should. When I find new answers and new treatments and new help for the symptoms I'm struggling with, it's going to happen exactly when it's supposed to. So be patient. Know that it's going to happen when it needs to. And when we're in a hurry and when we try a million things at once, we're never going to actually know what helps. So let's not be in a hurry. Let's be patient. Let's know that it will happen when it needs to. Let's decide it's happening as it should, and it's going to happen soon. And soon could be 20 years from now. It could be a week from now. It could be a day from now. It could be a year from now. I don't know. It could even be in the next life. I'm not sure. But I'm just going to decide that it's going to happen when it should, and it's going to be soon. It's not going to be that far away, so I don't need to worry about it. I can take things one at a time. I don't need to rush to find an answer. I don't need to try every little thing somebody tells me and spend all my money and all my time on this. I can take it slow. I can do what's best for mental and physical health. I can take things at my own pace because I'm not in a hurry. And I just know that if I keep my eyes open and I keep my mind open, that those answers will come to me. Whether it's through someone else or through my own research or through a doctor, those answers will come. They're going to come. That's all I'm going to believe. I'm just going to continue to believe that the answers will come when they are supposed to. So let's talk about the steps to go through to find the solution for you, to find the treatment that works for you. So the first thing to do is to make a list, and it's going to be a running list because you're going to have people tell you stuff. You're going to have new things come up. You're going to hear new research. You're going to see something on Instagram. You're going to need to keep a running list of ideas you want to try. And don't let this overwhelm you. Just be confident that what you need is on your list or will soon be on your list. I love that idea of soon. It will at least at some point be on your list, either today or soon. And let's just believe that it's on our list somewhere. And it seems like it might be overwhelming to have this huge list of things you might want to try. But again, just notice it's going to come at the exact time. If we decide to try the thing that works very last, I'm going to just decide that that was the perfect time to find the thing. And had I not tried everything else on the list, I wouldn't know for sure that that was the solution. Elder Jeffrey R. Holland said a talk, and I will link it in the show notes or the description, called Wrong Roads. It talks about a dad and son who were driving, and there were two different roads, and they didn't know which one was the right one. And they said a prayer, and they felt as if one way was the right way. And so they went down that road. And not very far on the road, they hit a complete dead end. And they couldn't go any farther. And they knew for sure that was not the right road for them to go on. They were so confused. And the son said, "Dad, why would we get the answer to our prayer that that was the right way to go when clearly it wasn't? They had to turn around and go down the other road." But what's amazing about this story is had they not gone down that road, the wrong road, they wouldn't have known for sure that the other road was right. Does that make sense? So even though they took that wrong path, they went a short distance and found, nope, that's not right. We need to turn around and go the other way. Now they knew for sure they were on the right path. Had they not gone down the wrong road first, they would be going on the right road and drive for a long time, and maybe they'd end up turning around because they were unsure still if they had gone the right way. And they'd be nervous and feel anxious, and I don't know if this is the right way to go. But because they went the wrong way first, it was so clear, nope, that's the wrong way to go. Clearly, we need to go on this other road. And then they had confidence on the other road. So we don't need to be fearful of taking the wrong road, because the wrong road will lead us to the right one, and it will help us to know when the right road is there. Had I not tried things that didn't work for me, I would never know what did work for me. Because with chronic illness, it's not that I'm feeling 100% better. It's that maybe this road made me feel 10% worse, and this other road made me feel 20% better. And maybe I would feel like that wasn't worth it, except that I had gone down the road that was 10% worse. And I realized, no, this is way better. This is significantly better than trying something different or than doing nothing. There's no issue with taking a wrong road. So don't be worried about that. Don't be worried about getting your list too long. Don't be overwhelmed that there's a lot of things on your list, because we're going to find the answers when we need to find them, and we're going to keep believing that, okay? The next thing I recommend doing is to do your research about the thing you want to try. So obviously you have a lot of things on your list, but do your research before you put it on your list. Don't even add it to your list until you know why it's on the list. If somebody says, Aimee, you should do a paleo diet, what I'm going to do is ask that person lots of questions. Why should I do that diet? What is the science behind it? Why do you think it would help me? And what ways do you think it could make me worse? Let's ask all those questions and then do even more research on your own. Ask doctors, ask the internet, go to the internet and search why paleo diets are recommended for the chronic illness you have, or why some people didn't have success with a paleo diet. And especially the science behind it, because I feel like a lot of times people are like, try this supplement, it'll change your life. It's amazing. And maybe it will. Maybe it changed their life. Maybe it helped them in some way, and that's amazing for them. And congratulations, I'm so happy for you. But also, why would that work for me? What is happening in my body when I take that supplement? Why would that work? And then I recommend picking only one thing at a time, and we stick for it for a certain amount of time, and you get to decide what that is. I recommend very minimum 2 weeks, but ideally at least a month of anything, because it's hard for your body to get rid of whatever it was. Say it was gluten, for example. You're got to make sure your body is completely rid of that gluten before you might start seeing the effects. Or you might eat gluten and then a week later have side effects. I would recommend a month, but if your brain is like, I don't think I could do it for a month, let's start at least 2 weeks. Okay, so we pick one thing at a time, and we remember that we're not rushed. Remember, we only need one thing at a time. And then we want to take very detailed notes. And when I say detailed, I mean like really detailed. I do have a free printable symptom tracker that is helpful for when you go to doctors, and it could be helpful in this situation as well. So that'll be linked in the description or the show notes. And it's totally free. It's just a download that you can print off and keep track of your symptoms. But I want you to take detailed notes of how you feel, good and bad, physically and mentally, while you are on this treatment plan. It's going to take your body some time to adjust to it. So you might notice that at the beginning there's tiny changes. I mentioned my upper cervical chiropractor. When I started going there, I got way worse. I decided to keep going because in the research I had done, it gets worse before it gets better. And so I was like, hey, we got to push through this hard time, because there's a high likelihood that if we do, it'll get better. And so knowing that, again, doing your research like we mentioned, and then taking detailed notes helped me notice when I started to see those changes and I started to get better. Same thing happened when I did EMDR, which is a trauma therapy. At first, it got way worse. and things were really hard, and my anxiety was worse, and my night terrors were worse, and I was having a lot of PTSD. And then I started to notice little tiny things because I was journaling about it every day. And I started to notice, whoa, wait a second. As I look back to a month ago, I was up all night. I wasn't sleeping at all. I was having night terrors every night. I think I only had 2 night terrors this week. That's amazing. That's improvement. Good thing I took notes, or else I probably wouldn't notice. I would have had a night terror and be like, see, I'm still having night terrors. Are you kidding me? No, they are less than they were before. Had I not taken detailed notes, I wouldn't have known when I started to see small improvements. Maybe you said you do it for a whole month and you're thinking, I don't think it really did that much. I think I'm going to be done with it. Wait, let me go look at my notes. And you notice the last week, things were just 10% better or even 2% better. Hey, maybe I should stick with this longer. Maybe I should do it for 2 months and see if it's 4% better. If after 2 months it's 4% better, then hey, this might be a solution for me. Again, we aren't in a rush. We don't need something that is snap your fingers and you're 100%. No, we need to take our time. We need to be thorough because here's the thing, and this is what I do. I am so guilty of this. I get overwhelmed by trying new treatments and then I give up. What's the point of even trying something if we're not going to take detailed notes, know if it's working or not, and be sure? Because I'm going to be honest, especially when it comes to food, I still don't know what is the best solution for me. I know a few things that cause me severe symptoms. Everything else, I'm not 100%. I'm not 100% sure if gluten causes me problems or dairy or other things. I don't really know because I get lazy and I stop taking detailed notes, or I'm in a rush and so I try everything at once. And then I don't know because I haven't seen huge improvements. And so I don't know for sure, or I see small improvements, but it's hard and I don't want to keep doing it. So what if we took it slow? Talking to myself here, obviously. What if I took it slow? What if I said, Aimee, you're not in a rush. You can try one thing a month. You could try one thing a year, and that's the right course for you. You're not in a rush. Let's just take some notes. Let's be clear about what is helping and what's not helping, and know for sure if it helps and how much it helps. If we need a whole episode about how to stay on these diets or treatments or plans or whatever, we can do that because I also have lots of ideas and things to talk about. Going along with that, we need to be consistent and don't stop until you say you're going to stop. And only stop if you are for sure that it's made you worse and there's not any science or evidence or people who have mentioned that it might get worse before it gets better. Okay, because remember, that might happen. But when we know for sure this isn't working at all or it's making things worse, then we can stop after we've reached our end. Unless, of course, you have severe symptoms and it's very clear this isn't working. For example, I tried a keto diet and 3 days in, I had my blood sugar drop so low, at least according to Google, I should have been in the hospital because it got really low. I knew what had happened. I was able to eat some carbs and get my blood sugar back up quickly, luckily. But I got so sick, and my husband was actually doing keto at the same time with me. I was doing it for my stomach. He was doing it for, I can't remember, maybe just health reasons, weight loss. I don't remember why he did it, but he did it with me. And he was having the classic keto flu, which is super normal. The research we had done, that part was normal. That should have happened. Blood sugar dropping to the place where mine dropped, not normal. Your blood sugar should not be dropping if you are on the keto diet. According to the research we did, according to the doctors we talked to, that's not normal. And it wasn't healthy or safe for me to continue on that diet. I knew after only 4 days, happy I tried it. So now I know carbs make such a difference. And now so much makes sense because I tried that. And I can go back and say, wow, that thing didn't work. But now I notice why. If I try to fast, if I don't eat food for too long, I have my blood sugar drop super low. It's the carbs, that my body needs carbs. And even though people tell me that for my gut issues, I should do less carbs, if I don't eat the starchy carbs, then it makes me really sick. And that's one of the things I know. And even though maybe doing a diet that was low in carb would be really good for my gut or really good for one of my other illnesses, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's my POTS or what illness it's for, but I have issues with blood sugar. And so that is something I can't do. And now I know that any kind of low carb diet is not my solution. So happy I tried that, happy it didn't work, and honestly happy I had such severe symptoms, even though it was a little scary in the moment, of course. I lived, everything was good, but even though it was really severe in the moment, hey, I'm so glad that I went through that. And we're able to see that there is good that comes from bad, hard things. After you have finished your course of the month-long thing you're doing, or the 5-month-long thing, or the 1-year thing that you're doing, the treatment that you've tried for whatever amount of time you said you would, and you stuck to it, and you didn't have any severe symptoms that took you out early that you needed to stop from, then we want to look for patterns. And I ideally recommend doing this with someone else. You know, a doctor would be great, but because it's so detailed, they may not have time to go through everything with you. So maybe you make kind of like a condensed version, a summary, if you will, of the findings. But going through it with someone, whether it's a friend or a spouse or a doctor, that can see some patterns. Because what I've noticed is sometimes I don't see differences, and my husband might see a difference. He's like, wow, I have just noticed you have so much more energy after doing this upper cervical chiropractic stuff. He told me one day, Aimee, you're making dinner. Like, that's big. And I didn't even realize it because I was just kind of going about my day. I didn't realize how much energy I had. And he said, Aimee, I just haven't seen you with this much energy in so long. I didn't even notice. So that's why it's helpful to go through with someone else, because they might notice things that you didn't notice, and you take your detailed notes and you go through them with someone, or maybe someone just noticed things on the outside. Like they didn't even look at your notes and they noticed something about you that was better or worse. A lot of times we think we have to do it on our own, but when we have someone else there to kind of take a different perspective, who's not living inside our body, they might see something that we don't. Or maybe a doctor can take a certain test. Maybe they can test your vitamin and mineral levels and see if those have improved. Or they can test different things to see if it's improved. I mean, obviously, if you're going on medication or something, a doctor might test your blood sugar. If you're having blood sugar issues, they might test your blood sugar after going on the medication to see if it's better. And then we want to decide if the treatment's worth it for you. For me, when I eat a lot of vegetables, the rest of my body feels way better. My stomach is on fire. But I would rather have more energy and have less physical pain in my muscles than have a stomach ache. And so I would rather take the stomach ache of eating lots of vegetables than have the muscle aches and the fatigue. We don't have to buy everything that people try to influence us to buy. We don't have to do all the things that people try to influence us to do. If you feel really terrible about exercising and everybody's trying to push you to exercise, you don't have to do it. I don't care how many people tell you that exercise is good for you and will help you, and for whatever reason they think it's good for you. If you don't feel good about it, if you don't want to do it, you do not have to ever. Literally, like, I don't care how much research there is about how something is bad for you or something is good for you, how many professionals recommend it. It doesn't matter. You still get to choose for yourself. So don't let other people influence you. Okay, this was a long episode. I just kind of got going and got excited. I have a feeling each episode's going to get longer because I get so excited talking about this stuff. I think because it helps me so much. It's like I need to sit down and think about this stuff and realize the changes I can make in my brain and my life. And it just makes such a difference for me. So hopefully it makes a difference for you too. I have had such good feedback on the podcast, and I'm so excited to continue it, to keep sharing it with you, and to keep going on this journey together. If you have any things that you want to talk about here on the podcast, let me know in the comments of the YouTube video, or you can email me if you're listening to this on the podcast, aimee.esther.co@gmail.com. If you have anything you want me to specifically talk about, or if you want to be interviewed and be on the podcast, I have some interviews coming up with some of you guys who have even more knowledge to share with us, and I can't wait for that and to share it with you here on the podcast. So that is everything for today, and I will see you on the next one. Bye. Hey friend, do you find value in this podcast but want to take it to the next level? Work with me one-on-one or check out Chronically Me, the course and workbook. This course takes the things you are learning on the podcast and helps you apply them directly to your life. This course dives deeper into changing your thinking, teaching you how the brain works and how to maximize your life with chronic illness. I designed this course as a companion to the podcast. The podcast gives specific, real-world examples, and the course helps you put them into action. If you want personalized one-on-one help from me, I got you. I also offer individual coaching programs where we can talk about the problems you are facing. I'll help you manage your brain and find solutions to nearly every problem that you have. We will walk hand in hand on this journey together. Check the show notes or the video description on YouTube for more information on getting extra help from me. Talk to you soon.